And I find this interesting because the rationale has changed. So people are saying, we need to fight ISIS, but that's not really the point. The point is to counterbalance Russia and Iran. And I'm wondering, is that A, our goal, B, achievable with 2,000 troops in Syria? Like, what actually is the goal? I'm losing track.
First of all, that's a great question. Second, because he's pointing out wait a minute, what is our goal? I thought our goal. So just I've said this before, and I'll say it again. This shows you how BS the war is in Syria and from the United States perspective. People want to stay there so we can fight ISIS. Well, ISIS is fighting Assad. So if we're fighting ISIS, aren't we helping Assad? And if we want to stay there because we want to overthrow Assad, aren't we helping ISIS? So either way, we're helping one of our enemies. No one ever. So that shows you that they just want to keep forces there to keep forces there. And he's saying, well, we're really there to counterbalance Russia and Iran's influence there, right? What's our goal? Here we go.
Well, there are a couple goals. It's to fight ISIS. It's also to push back on Iran and on Russia. So
fight ISIS, push back on Iran and Russia. But ISIS is pushing back on Iran and Russia. ISIS is pushing in Syria. ISIS is pushing back on Iran and Russia because they're fighting Assad, and Iran, Russia, and Assad are all aligned together. So again, this whole conversation is going to go on like this, where he says contradictory things like this, because this is how all these conversations go, because our presence in Syria is complete bullshit. Did you want to say something?
Yeah, because the several things too, the whole ISIS. Now, Serena Shim was a journalist that uncovered the fact that we were funding ISIS and funneling them through our bases in Turkey into Syria.
Correct.
And she had a mysterious car accident.
Yep.
And so this is so ridiculous. It's like they have been lying so much and getting away with it. They don't even need to keep their story straight.
I know.
It's just like, oh, we got to fight ISIS, ISIS, ISIS. Keep everyone afraid of ISIS.
Keep everyone afraid. It's perfect. It's almost like the perfect tool to keep the war machine going unabated, right? So here we go.
Stunning about this development is all of President Trump's foreign policy advisors and top military advisors were against this decision. And
yeah, I know. They're all crazy warmongers. Mattis is a crazy warmonger. All those people who are they're the same people who got us into all 8 wars. They're the people who've kept us in Afghanistan for 17 going on 18 years. They're the people who had us do Iraq. They're the people who had us do Libya. They're the people who want us to stay in Syria. Yeah, those are that's why people elected Trump and not Mattis.
What this guy should say is, all of those people who are giving 6- and 7-figure defense industry contracts don't want him to stop the gravy train.
Reverse them today, suddenly, in a rash decision. Now, the reason why we should...
Suddenly, it's a rash decision to pull out of war, but it's never a rash decision to go into war before you have a vote, again, they're in Syria on the authorization for the use of military force, which was given to President Bush to go fight al-Qaeda. And now they're using it to go into all these countries. So now it's a blank check to go into any. All you got to do is say there's ISIS or there's terrorists in that country, and we're going to go in under this authorization from frickin' 18 years ago. And so here we go.
It's the same people who think we should stay in Afghanistan, right? So
some of them are the same, but the reasons are different. The reasons are different.
So do you see what Tucker does? He goes, you mean the people who think we should stay in Afghanistan are the ones he's crossing Trump? You know what? Do you see that was pretty clever of Tucker actually to do that? Do you see that? Okay.
Trump's top policy advisors said, we are going to stay in Syria until we have 1, rolled back Iran. That has not happened. 2, defeated ISIS. We have made...
Why do we get to go into someone else's country and fight another country in someone else's country? You know why Iran's in Syria? Because the government of Syria invited them there. You know why we're there? We're there illegally to try to overthrow illegally another government in another country. That's illegal, just like we did in Syria. I mean, just like we did in Iraq, just like we did in Libya, just like we did in Afghanistan, just like we did in Iran. in 1954, whatever year that was.
And just like Mexico is doing, they've sent troops and bombs into America to stop the Mexican drug cartel.
Oh, right. Could you imagine if they did that? Imagine if Mexico was bombing and killing people inside of our country because they're their enemies.
The global war on drugs that Mexico was funding.
So here we go.
Major progress in fighting ISIS, but we haven't fully defeated them. I was in Iraq in October. Nobody on the ground in Iraq tells me we defeated ISIS there, and ISIS...
What does that have to do with ISIS in Syria? Again, nobody tells it. So as long as there's ISIS, we have to keep spending $700 billion a year to fight them. Again, ISIS doesn't even have an airplane. They don't even have an airplane. Just so you know.
$5 to $9 trillion. There's a $4 trillion gray zone with the global war on terror that's 17 going on 18 years now. You would think we've got terrorism locked up.
Yep.
$5 trillion. Gee, I wonder what America and the world could look like if we spent that money on, infrastructure, a Green New Deal. What would America
look like?
What would it look like?
Let's remember, you can solve world hunger for $30 billion a year.
Yes. It's unbelievable. Imagine if we were still having this conversation on the news about fighting Germany and Japan in 1958.
Yep, right?
Imagine
that, because that's what the equivalent is.
Even stronger in Syria.
The difference is Germany was actually a threat.
Yeah.
That's the big difference. Afghanistan is not a threat to the United States.
No.
Never was. What about Saudi? They came from Saudi Arabia.
Still, moreover, all of Trump's policy advisors have said we should stay in Syria until there's a political solution.
So that's maybe another option. So there wasn't actually ISIS in Syria when the Assad government controlled the whole country. Christians and other religious minorities, a lot of them, lived in relative peace. Now they're hunted down and murdered. Why wouldn't it just be the simplest, most elegant, best solution for everyone involved if Assad managed his entire country again?
Because you're ignoring the history and the development of the revolution in Syria. The revolution in Syria...
It just happened a few years ago.
It happened organically. It began in...
No. The CIA started it.
Okay, so that's not true. So Tucker lets this guy say this at least a few more times. It did not... The Syrian revolution was artificially started by millions of dollars pumped into there by the CIA and Saudi Arabia. It wasn't an Arab Spring like everybody says. That's a lie. It was started by us, the United States, the CIA, and Saudi Arabia. That's who started the war to overthrow Assad in Syria. So he's going to say this a couple more times. Good. Graham knew immediately it was wrong. I knew it. Here we go.
2011. It happened organically, right? And so Syria was an authoritarian state before that with tons of oppression. Maybe Christians were okay there.
Is there a non-authoritarian...
But people were not...
Is there a non-authoritarian state in that region other than Israel?
Bam! So we should invade every state that's an authoritarian state? And he's saying, is there one that isn't besides Israel? Why are you inventing reasons that aren't consistent? You're being inconsistent. So why here? So that's not the real reason. So what he's doing is outing him as you just said, because it's an authoritarian regime. That's not the real reason. And that's what this question does, reveals it to not be the real reason. Again, you can't tell us the real reason. The real reason is you're there at the behest of Israel and Saudi Arabia because they want to put a pipeline through Syria. So they can't say that. So he has to make. So that's why it's so easy for Tucker to.
There are less authoritarian states. In that region.
Jordan's an authoritarian state. Criticize the king and see what happens. So that's the rule.
You cannot compare Jordan to Syria. You can't even compare Syria to Iraq, which has a fledgling democracy.
I'm just saying authoritarian justifies nothing. They're all authoritarians. Okay.
But the point is that this was
when Tucker Carlson can tear you apart that easily. You have a horrible argument, and this is like that's his first argument, and he just got ripped apart. A, it wasn't an organic uprising, and B, so what if it's an authoritarian? That's not a justification for anything.
Organic revolution. The U.S. didn't start this revolution. It started by the Syrian people.
No, it wasn't. That is a falsehood. That is a blatant lie. And if that guy doesn't know that, he's the dumbest guy in the world asked to talk about this on TV. He knows that, and I'm going to say he's lying about it. I'm going to stick my neck out and say I'm going to speculate that this guy is lying.
majority of whom are Sunni Arabs. They stood up against Assad. He chose, rather than to reconcile with them, he chose to mow them down and slaughter tens of thousands of innocent, peaceful protesters. That's how the revolution began.
But I'm not defending Assad's character. I'm merely saying from the perspective, why would I?
Yeah.
I'm not Syrian. I don't work for Assad. I'm an American, and I want to know what's best for us. And if you're worried about the chaos and the huge refugee problems caused by the civil war and by the emergence of ISIS, again, abetted by the civil war, then why wouldn't you long for the days where Christians could live unmolested in Syria under this authoritarian Assad? I'm totally missing it. What am I missing?
This is actually going to cause more refugees, okay? Northeast.
Stopping war causes more refugees, Graham.
That's throughout history. Every time we stop a war, there's more refugees.
More refugees. Up is down, black is white, in is out. This is what it looks like when you have to argue for our presence in Syria. This is what it looks like. Tucker Carlson can destroy you.
Syria right now is secure. The reason it's secure is because of the great work by our U.S. Special Forces working with the SDF, the local Syrian and moderate Sunni forces on the ground. They've secured it. And actually, there are less refugees coming from that area. The people can stay there peacefully. They're not getting bombed by Assad. And when we pull out, it's going to cause a massive wave of Syrian refugees again, because forces are going to go in and slaughter the forces that we've been working with on the ground. Yes, Assad's forces, Iranian Shia militia forces, and possibly even Russian forces.
Okay, and so we're responsible for that. Because so this is halfway around the world. We have crises like Venezuela's collapsed. It's right there. Mexico has probably as many murders as Syria. I mean, not close, right? So, I'm just saying there are a lot of things going on, but we have a moral obligation to keep 2,000 American troops in this country around the world. Because why? I'm honest. I'm confused.
Well, first of all, we are there already, and it's successful. So
again, he won't say why, because we're there already.
Loud. We also do have some obligation to the forces on the ground who fought bravely alongside us. Moreover, this is going to impact us because ISIS will come back. And if we don't have forces on the ground to monitor ISIS and to continue to combat ISIS, ISIS will come back. ISIS are sworn enemies of the U.S.
ISIS will come back. Come back where? He acts like they're going to come back to the... They've never been to the United States, ISIS. They're not here. They're not attacking us. No one's attacking us in the United States. 17 years ago, we had an attack by a bunch of guys from Saudi Arabia who hijacked some planes. We haven't had it since. ISIS never came here. You know why ISIS is ISIS? Because we invaded their country. And we overthrew Saddam Hussein, and they became ISIS. That's why. So he's saying we need to do more. There'll be another ISIS. We created Al-Qaeda. Now there's ISIS. There'll be another one. As soon as they need one, there'll be another one.
Want to kill Americans, and when they become stronger in Syria, they'll strike out against America again. So your viewers should worry.
They'll strike out against them. When did ISIS ever strike out against America? I love it. Then this is fear-mongering 101. Just keep talking fear. They're going to come back. They're going to come back in Syria, and then they're going to attack us. Attack us in Syria? We're not going to be in Syria. We shouldn't be in Syria. We shouldn't be in Iraq. We shouldn't be in Libya. We shouldn't be in Afghanistan. We shouldn't be where ISIS is. But this is it. This is how it goes.
Their own security because of this decision.
Well, there are a lot of reasons to worry about our own security. A lot.
Sure.
Many. And our mental health and our economy and our healthcare. So there's a lot of things to worry about. But by the standards that you've just articulated, we're never going to leave there or Afghanistan or any place that we've been for more than 8 months. So
I wouldn't say we are never going to leave there, but we have to see progress on the ground. We have to see.
I wouldn't say we're never going to leave, but probably never. See how this guy didn't have one argument he could actually defend? Not one argument that's defensible.
And look, the only photos we get out of Syria are the ones behind Tucker Carlson. Bombs, bombed out. There's people in Damascus. Stop
having a regular life right now,
and they're Christians. They're dressed nice. There's restaurants. There's lights. There's not that. They only show Aleppo, and it's we don't get anything close to the real story.
That is true. Well, you get a little bit closer here.